Hola, Internet amigos. What does pizza and an invasion of Taiwan have in common? Stay tuned and listen to OConnell, and you will find out. Bon appetit.
Hola, Internet amigos. I have a conspiracy theory I must discuss with you. Do you remember the pizza stuff? Do you remember that they could tell when there was going to be a war because the Pentagon would start ordering a lot of pizza? Do you remember that?
Can pizza deliveries to the Pentagon serve as a predictor of a looming international crisis? That's what happened when Israel launched its preemptive strike on Iran last week. According to an account on X called the Pentagon Pizza Report, nearly all pizza establishments nearby the Pentagon have experienced a huge surge in activity. Here's why. When U.S. military personnel face a national emergency, they work late into the night and can't leave their desks. So, ordering pizza from local pizza joints is the cheapest and easiest choice for food, other than the Pentagon canteen. At 8:57 p.m. Thursday, the Pentagon Pizza Report reported that the closest and second closest Domino's to the Pentagon had surged in traffic.
Well, I've been noticing a lot of things which indicate to me a blockade of Taiwan can't be too far away. And we're just going to go over some silly things that you wouldn't even think of because it just doesn't make sense. So I guess the right attitude to have is let us attend and talk about that.
In cyber is a real domain of power. In cyber is a real domain of power.
Well, Wild Gamers Nexus plays in the background. That's the Steam Deck. Do you see that tiny little thing he's holding? And it's quite a scandal because everyone's going, why are you charging over $1,000 for this poxy low-grade machine which you can't update? Basically, it's a little PC. It's like an Xbox or a PlayStation, but it's a PC. It runs the Windows operating system and you run Steam. Now, Steam is how you play games. It's a hugely rich country. The guy that owns it, Gabe, owns a giant yacht, and he's got tons of cash, and it's a scandal in the nerd because they're trying to charge over $1,000 for this thing, which should be around $599, and you could build something twice as powerful and just make the box a little bit bigger, and you've got something twice as powerful that you can upgrade. And everyone's just saying, this is ludicrous. Nobody's going to buy this. And it just got me to thinking that little box that you see there, which is, I mean, it's just a scandal in the nerd. In the nerd world, it's a scandal. And I can see why, because I do a lot of checking prices and tech and dreaming of, A6000 Pro graphics cards with 96 gigabyte of memory, a mere $10,000 but man, can you do some crazy AI stuff on that? That's the dream. I'll sell out for an A6000 Pro. Hell, I'll sell out for a 5090 Founders Edition because that will fit in my case. But I'd still have to upgrade the power supply. But in Nerd Central, this is a scandal. And it just got me going on all the prices. None of it really makes sense when you think about it, because if you didn't know, the AI stuff is a bit of a fraud in the sense that they've got all this stuff waiting to go in and they're basically stockpiling it. They can't build the data centers. Why? No, the data centers they can build, it's the energy. They just don't have the energy. They have to up the power supply. Now, let's ask ourselves a really simple question. Are the people that run the planet really, really stupid? Yes, sometimes you've got to wonder, but the accountants, the bean counters, they really know what they're doing. And they know this stuff. So why would you just keep stockpiling memory and SSDs and GPUs and they're just sitting in warehouses? Okay. And it's creating chaos in the computer world. And there's multiple theories. They want to make people go remote, meaning you just get that is the plan anyways. You will just have a very thin, lightweight laptop or a tablet or your phone, and all the processing will be done in central like community cores of giant processing units, and then they get all your data because they have to protect you from the hackers. I mean, they are the hackers, but and biometrically, because the internet's so dangerous now, we have to completely control it. We get all that. But nothing adds up when you see the prices of things, which they must not. Like the person who made that Steam Deck, who's filthy rich, must have gone, they're going to blame the RAM prices. No, it's not the RAM prices. They said, let's sell this for almost $1,100 when we know the average person could buy something twice as powerful, or just get a PlayStation. PlayStation's awesome. Then they said, but then you're locked into the PlayStation ecosystem. Sorry, looking at the wrong camera. Okay, but PlayStation make awesome games anyway. And they sell things cheap and then make money back on the games. But they're already making a mint on Steam games anyway. It just doesn't make sense that they think, oh, someone will buy this. No one's going to buy that thing. Nobody except a half-wit will buy the Steam Deck. Then you look at cars. Go to a car channel. And for the last 5 years, longer, I think before I left Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia in 2020, they said the car industry in America is finished. No one is buying cars. This is before the big hit of COVID and all the chips that no one could buy to get the car, all that stuff, scarcity and so on. And people say, well, that's the end. So Chevrolet and General Motors and all these American car companies and all car companies had gigantic inventories of like epic proportions. And they were hiring like car parks to store all these brand new cars. And the price was going to plummet and crash, and it was the end of civilization. That was 6-7 years ago. Every year it's the same. It can't go on. They won't lower the prices of cars, and they're not cutting back on production. What's going on? It's almost like they know there's going to be a giant scarcity. It's like the pizza with the Pentagon. Doesn't add up. The only way it adds up is when you realize there's going to be a blockade of Taiwan. Something's going to happen. And they know it, and they're just getting ready to soften the blow for a big transition completely away from China, or I believe they will cooperate with China and say, listen, dickhead, we need you to you get your population under control in China, cull them, kill them, whatever you want to do. We'll supply you with chips because we want data. We want your AI data. We need the inputs of the Chinese people, and you will coordinate that region. And we'll give you Taiwan, or we'll give you a blockade and we'll give you some goodies. I think they're going to hand Taiwan over to China after a long blockade, just like they've done with the Straits of Hormuz. But China's going to have a little win, so they've got to give their asset, because Xi's completely isolated. His family's got billions. I mean, half his family live with permanent residency literally in Australia with billions in Sydney bank accounts. So let's stop the garbage. Just like the Russians, the sworn enemies, just like the Iranians, all the sworn enemies, just like the Assad family with all the London bank accounts. It's all garbage, okay? So it makes sense. They want the Taiwanese electrical engineers, right? They want them in America. That's what they want them. And then they can claim, even though the machines won't work, they have to be remotely plugged in. So China, even if they got the machines, couldn't do anything with them, because to run those giant machines, you have to have special fluids, all sorts of consumables to keep them going. And they're also permanently connected with a direct line back to the Netherlands and ASML. You open a thing or you do anything, it'll just shut down. And it's the same with very high-end milling machines that China buys from. They buy them from Japan, South Korea, Germany, and America. Well, guess what? Those CNC machines, those very high-end, amazing, automated milling machines down to a millionth of a millimeter, all that stuff, making jet turbines. Well, you mess with that in any way, they'll just shut down. So it's not easy for anyone. You remember when you look at all these big giant companies, even in the Netherlands and IMEC in Belgium, not the India, Middle East, European corridor, IMEC is where the highest of high-end stuff gets done. And even then, it's all US patent technology. So you can't make a chip without the US's permission. Not only that, the US controls all the choke points. It's got 11 aircraft carrier battle groups. It's backdoored everyone and been backdoored itself by our friends, our traditional enemy. But you see how this works. You can't just hand over Taiwan Semiconductor. The machines aren't going to work. So what you're going to do is you're going to do a blockade. Then you're going to get all the best engineers are going to do a runner. They've probably got their visas ready already. And then after a long period of the blockade, see, they love Cold Wars, they love blockades because you can extend the war out. And you can say, oh my God, a plane's been shot down. Well, we don't know. Did it? Didn't it? Who knows in the age of AI? Drama. Keeping people busy and keeping the news cycle off other things. So you can see how this works out. They're always staged, managed, always. Siempre. Total stage management. That doesn't mean organic events don't happen. It doesn't mean they have problems. If I'm producing a film, they have problems. The directors have problems. Actors are difficult to deal with. So just imagine the world a giant theatre stage or a giant Hollywood production. They have cost overruns. They have to fire actors. The scriptwriters go on strike. Just as producers start complaining about the cost. That is the world. The world is a stage. And they'll take an organic event and they'll raise it up because it suits the narrative. And they'll take other organic events and they'll push them down because it doesn't suit the narrative. And that is the way the world works. There's no alt media. There's just them. If you're on their feed, you are them. Okay? Even organic people can sometimes get cross-promoted because the narrative they spew suits their narrative. And that person will swear black and blue, hey, I'm real deal, man. I'm the real deal. And they mean it and they think it and they believe it. But it just happens to be whether they internalize the values or they're looking at the algorithm and every time they talk 9/11, the algorithm went down, they lost money, went, oh, maybe I won't say that. But they'll tell you they're completely independent. They'll tell you they're completely independent, but they know very quickly what to talk about and what not to talk about. So that's the great thing about places like YouTube, because you can see instantly, minute by minute, what subject is resonating and what isn't. But really what they can do is, even if a subject resonates, they just tell you it's not, you change tack because you want money. And that's the way the system works. So a blockade of Taiwan is almost inevitable. It's inevitable. They have to keep it running, but they'll be doing deals behind the scenes, just like the Iranian elites were in the bag before the first bomb dropped. Literally. They are doing exactly what they're told. Bibi is doing exactly what he's told. This is how the whole of the Middle East and that region is being reshaped for the benefit of US elites. That doesn't make it necessarily better than the other team. Well, no, it will be better, but I'm not sure how much better. But that will be up to Americans. Because now you will have direct lines into PowerPoints. You always did, but you just can't be bothered using it because it's too hard. And, don't forget to like and subscribe. So with all these things in mind, there's going to be a blockade of some description, and then they might hand over Taiwan to end the war. Great deals of... They might extend it for a year. Who freaking knows? But that's the only thing I can think of that explains these gigantic gluts of consumer products. But the prices won't come down. It's the only thing that explains, well, there's no computer, and it's not. I bought 32 gig of RAM before I left in February 2025. I bought 32 gigabytes of RAM, and I think it was $120 US. Now that same 32 gig of RAM is $500. That's how much computer RAM has gone up. That has flowed onto solid state drives. What was $190 US, $225 US, 4 terabytes is now $900 US. But they've got them all stored in giant warehouses and they're not putting them into the systems because there's no energy, because they have to get all the nukes running and upgrade power supplies and so on and so forth. So why are they doing this? They must know that something is going to happen. The Steam Deck price is absurd. They've got to know they're not going to sell one. They know something. Oh, yes, we will. Wait for the giant shortage. I got a spare graphics card. I got a 7900 XT sitting in a bag. And I don't think I'm going to try and sell that. I might hold on to that because something's up. Just like the pizzas in the Pentagon indicated that there might be a war going on. Just like the Soviets actually had their teams, their long-term sleepers, their GRU assets, and they were trained in Europe and the UK and the US to look for when the lights are on, when the lights are off in the Pentagon or the Ministry of Defense or GCHQ, whatever. All these little things, and they believed if they got all this data, they could predict if a war was going to start. Well, it's the same thing. I've been waiting for the great car crash with giant inventories But the prices will not budge. Everyone's waiting. Hey, when the hell's the price going to come down? Why have we been waiting for over 5 years? The crash should have been happening, and they just keep building inventories. You can't escape reality. So what the hell is going on? They know something is up with the supply chain. They know. Food for thought, ladies and gentlemen. Food for thought. Anyway, I'll get back to the business of thinking deeply, eating Vegemite, and doing all the usual stuff. Today's date is, of course, the 23rd of June, 2026. It is 9:31 a.m. Have a great day, and we will talk on a daily basis. Talk soon. By the way, I have a model of myself. Lee has to redo it. It didn't turn out well. Doesn't talk when it's supposed to talk. It's a subtle art. But yes, I am now in the White House, and we'll be talking directly to J.D. Vance, President Trump, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth. Me and Pete, we're going to hang out. We're going to drink Jack Daniels. And I just want to have a little bit of fun, if you don't mind, while very strange things go on. But book it in somewhere along the line, whether this year or next. There's going to be a blockade of Taiwan, and I predict you will see that blockade turn into a capitulation over time. It gives Xi energy, and the Chinese will go, yeah! And then they'll say, oh my God, he's got hold of the chip machines, of course, which won't work and will be no good to him whatsoever. But they'll say that, and magically China will be this world power. Dragon. Come to get you. Lockheed says, give us $1 trillion handout, please. So this system of the Pentagon socialist handout will have to continue, and I'm all for it continuing. I just don't like hypocrisy. Stop telling me you're a capitalist state, America. You're not. Socialism for the rich, free markets for the poor. We know the deal. But I want it to continue. You have to supply the economy to get things until they want to move into space exploration as the economic stimulus to keep people busy. Busy, 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 busy. That's the goal. Busy as bees, as they would say down at the lodge. And that's what we're going to talk about next. How do you transition from this economic Cold War taxpayer funding handout to build high technology, the strategic Hamlet system they had in Vietnam via DARPA, which is now being turned on the world's population, including America? There are a lot of problems to address, and what do you do with lunatics? And it would seem to me that at least 30% of the US population are complete, raving, mentally ill lunatics who believe Mandami is a legend. And I believe they're going to absolutely bring New York down and turn it into a haven for all the internal refugees in America and turn that into a smart city after it burns. So after it burns, you'll see the rebuilding. Remember, first you burn it down, then you rebuild it. There's so much to talk about. I don't even know where to start. Mary Silva is, of course, continuing to upset the Republican Party, and there are clearly shenanigans and movements to get rid of her. I doubt that's going to work. We're still here. It's not going to work. We have too many supporters in very interesting places. And here's a suggestion. If you've got some shenanigans in mind, you might want to think twice, because we have a very interesting audience. Talk soon.
What is our common bond truly? Freedom. Freedom. Without freedom, you can't be a Christian no matter what denomination you belong to. You can't be a Buddhist. You can't own a donut shop. You can't drive from here to Oregon. You can't be an American, because that's what it's all about, and that's the only thing that it's all about. Nothing else. Nothing else. It's about freedom. Only freedom.